What does a hereticus fork or a breaking wheel tell us about the human capacity for invention and for suffering? Today, we're taking a chilling historical dive into the dark origins of medieval torture. Prepare to discover the unsettling why behind these gruesome devices and how they shaped an era defined by fear. Think you know fear. Think again. We're not just talking about history. We're stepping into the shadows of medieval dungeons to confront the very real, very painful instruments of coercion. Can you stomach the true stories behind the Iron Maiden, the rack, and more? Let's begin our journey into the darkest corners of human justice. To understand why these terrifying contraptions even existed, we first have to picture life in the Middle Ages. Imagine a world lit by firelight, where superstition was as real as the soil under your feet, and the line between law and fear was incredibly thin. Communities were tight-knit, but they were also ruled by a deep-seated dread of crime, heresy, and social chaos. The legal systems we know today, with concepts like innocent until proven guilty, simply didn't exist in the same way. Justice was swift, often brutal, and almost always public. Confession was seen as the ultimate proof of guilt, the voice of God speaking through the accused. But how do you get a confession from someone who won't speak? This question led authorities down a dark path, where pain became a tool, a key to unlock what they believed to be the truth. Was it a necessary evil to maintain order? Or was it a descent into pure sadism? The answer is as complex and unsettling as the devices themselves. The idea of using pain to extract information wasn't a medieval invention. Ancient civilizations, from the Egyptians to the Romans, employed various forms of coercion. However, the Middle Ages saw a horrifying evolution in both the methodology and the philosophy behind it. The powerful influence of religious doctrine played a huge role. Heresy, the act of challenging established religious beliefs, was considered a crime against God and society itself. The logic was twisted but powerful. A person's body was temporary, but their soul was eternal. Therefore, inflicting temporary physical pain was justified if it could save a soul from eternal damnation by forcing a confession and repentance. It was this mindset that fueled a dark kind of innovation. Specific devices began to emerge, not just out of cruelty, but from a perceived necessity to create more effective ways to break a person's will. Each new screw, leva, and spike was an escalation, a testament to a society grappling with its deepest fears through systematic, cold, and calculated pain. Now, let us enter the Chamber of Horrors and look at the machines that have haunted our imaginations for centuries. First, the rack. Its design was terrifyingly simple. A wooden frame with rollers at each end. The victim's hands and feet were tied to the rollers, which were then slowly turned, stretching the body. The goal was to dislocate joints, starting with the shoulders and hips, causing unimaginable agony without initially killing the victim. The sound of popping ligaments and the victim's screams were as much a part of the torture as the physical stretching, designed to psychologically break not only the person on the rack but anyone forced to watch. Then we have the legendary Iron Maiden. It's the stuff of nightmares. A human-sized iron cabinet, often with a menacing face, lined with spikes. The victim would be placed inside, and the doors would be closed, impaling them from all sides. But, as a twist you might not expect, historical evidence for the Iron Maiden's use during the Middle Ages is almost non-existent. Most historians believe it was a myth, a fabrication created centuries later, likely in the 18th century, to sensationalize the barbarism of the medieval period. The famous Nuremberg Maiden, for instance, was pieced together long after the era of torture had passed. So, while it's an iconic symbol of medieval cruelty, it's more of a ghoulish fantasy than a historical reality. However, many other devices were terrifyingly real. The Pair of Anguish, a metal instrument with 4 segments that could be opened by turning a screw, was designed for specific forms of humiliation and punishment. The Brazen Bull, a hollow bronze statue of a bull, is an even more ancient and horrifying concept. A person would be locked inside, and a fire lit beneath it. As the metal heated, the person inside would essentially be roasted alive. A system of tubes and stops was supposedly designed to convert their screams and to the sound of an enraged bull. While its use is debated and often attributed to ancient Sicily rather than medieval Europe, it perfectly captures the horrifying intersection of invention and cruelty. These weren't just tools. They were grotesque works of engineering designed for maximum suffering. But why perform these horrors in the open? Why turn an execution or a session of torture into a public event? Because it was a performance, a gruesome form of theater. These public spectacles served as a powerful tool for social control. For the average person, witnessing a heretic being burned at the stake or a criminal on the breaking wheel was a visceral and unforgettable warning. It was the ultimate display of the church's and the state's absolute power. It said, "This is what happens when you defy us." The crowd's reaction was complex. It wasn't just bloodlust. It was a mix of fear, morbid curiosity, and a sense of communal justice being served. People gathered not just to see the punishment, but to participate in the reinforcement of social order. Over time, as societies moved toward the Enlightenment, attitudes began to shift. The idea of justice evolved, and the brutal theater of public torture gradually declined, seen as barbaric and uncivilized by a new generation of thinkers. So what is the legacy of these dark inventions? These devices continue to fascinate and horrify us, appearing in movies, books, and video games. They represent a part of our history that is difficult to confront but impossible to ignore. They force us to ask unsettling questions about justice, power, and the depths of human cruelty. The ethical debate they spark is still relevant today, echoing in modern discussions about extreme interrogation and the limits of coercion. The enduring lesson from this dark chapter of history is a sobering one. It reminds us how easily fear can be weaponized, how noble ideas like truth and justice can be twisted to justify horrific acts, and how fragile the line between civilization and barbarism truly is. History, in its darkest moments, holds up a mirror, forcing us to look at the potential that lies within all of us, for both great compassion and terrible cruelty. Thank you so much for joining us on this dark but important journey through history. If you found this exploration fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the past. Let us know in the comments which historical topic you'd like to see us cover next. Stay curious, and we'll see you in the next video.